Here's a brief rundown of the parameter settings on the Inline 800 and how to change them. You want to set the parameters or the settings correctly to give you the right curing of your powder. The way to do this is to access the Para Set menu, which is the button in the bottom right corner of the screen. The first of those changeable settings is the shaking strength. Of course, during the DTF process, once you've applied the powder to your prints, you want to shake or knock the film to knock off the excess powder from around the prints that you don't need on the film or don't want on the film. This is done using the powder shaker part of the machine, and you can set the shaking strength. This is set in percentage. To change a value, you press on the white box with the text in it. I can change that from the current value of 54 to the maximum value, if I wish, of 100. To save that, you then simply press the Enter button, and we now have the shaking strength at 100%. I'll show you the difference of those. So if I go to the main screen and turn the shaking function on, again, to an activator function, you change from green to orange. So if I turn shaking on, the shaking bar is now running around at 100%. Turn that off. I'm going to change that to a value that I'd like to use, which is 58%. And that's how to change the shaking strength. The next parameter that you can change is the heat temperature. So that's the heat temperature inside the main oven that's fed by the 4 lamps underneath the bed and the 4 lamps above. The heat temperature on our unit is currently set to 100. If I wish to do so, I could change it as low as 20. This is degrees Celsius. If I wish to do so, I can set it as high as 140 degrees Celsius. I'm actually going to set our machine at 75 degrees Celsius. Again, to change a value, tap in the white box with the text inside and enter the value you wish to set the machine to, and press Enter to confirm. So one of the parameters that you can change is the feed speed. Now this affects the speed of the vacuum roller and the speed of the feed belt. In auto mode, once it's fully webbed up, i.e. your film is attached to the take-up unit, the belt goes in reverse at a set, quite a slow speed, and then the feed speed changes the speed of your take-up device. So if I change the feed speed here, the minimum you can change it to is 100, although that would be very slow and you would never really use such a slow speed. The highest speed that you can set it to is 24,000, but I'm going to set this to around 3,000. Now, in order to check these work and sufficiently change the speed, all you would need to do is set a feed speed. So I'll leave it on 3,000 for the moment, and I'll turn the feed function on, and you'll see the vacuum roller starts turning at the desired speed. So the final setting that you can change via this panel that will make a difference is the pre-temperature. The pre-temperature sets the temperature in degrees Celsius of the preheater panel on the machine where the film enters the machine. The minimum temperature this can be set to is 20 degrees Celsius. The maximum temperature this can be set to is 100 degrees Celsius. We tend to have this set at around 60 degrees Celsius. The final 2 settings within the Para Set menu are roll interval and tension. On version 1181 of the machine, these make no difference, so you can ignore those settings. Another function I want to bring to your attention on the main page on the display are these 3 white boxes at the top. These show the heat temperature, the pre-temperature both in degrees Celsius, and the powder weight that's detected in the powder weight trough. As you can see, we've not got any film in there, and the powdering, dusting function isn't activated, so the powder weight is at 0%. But if I reach into the machine and push the powder weight trough down on its hinge, you'll notice that that 0 rises progressively as I raise and lower that trough. That shows the powder weight not in grams or kilos, it shows that powder weight in a percentage. So it goes from 0 to 100. The heat temperature shows the current temperature in the oven whilst it's static. And it will be static whilst the heat function is not activated. If I activate the heat function, that figure will then flick between showing the current temperature, of 38.5 degrees currently, to the set temperature, which is 75 degrees. How then do you ascertain what the correct temperature and speed are for your prints? Well, this will vary from printer to printer and based on your quality settings, i.e. the feed speed the media is coming out of your printer. Initially, what you want to do is match the feed speed of the powder curer Inline 800 with the speed that the film is being fed out of the printer. To do this, what you want to do is set a feed speed that roughly allows the droop of the media to not change so much. You can use a tape measure or you can judge this by eye. So at the bottom of the droop of media, my gap to the floor is about 400 millimeters. While the machine is feeding, that gap shouldn't sufficiently raise, and crucially, it shouldn't shrink. It should stay around that gap there. If it is, you've got the right feed speed. If the gap is shrinking, then the feed speed on the unit is too slow and needs to be increased. If that gap raises and the powder curer machine constantly pauses for long periods of time, then this is running faster than your printer and should be slowed down. Once you've ascertained the correct feed speed for your printer and the settings you're using, you then simply need to ensure that the heat temperature for that speed is sufficient to cure your powder and your prints given the speed setting that you're using. So you have a look at the prints as they come out of the exit of the tunnel and check that they're cured properly. If they're coming out a little powdery and could do with a bit more curing, simply increase the heater temperature as you've been shown earlier in the video. If they're coming out slightly yellow and slightly over cured, decrease that heat temperature as you've been shown earlier in the video.